Test, test.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Good. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming back in. This is always such a good way for us to be able to have conversation. One of the things in MCC that's always troubled me a little bit is that our conversations are usually at our forum in October and our congregational meeting in November, and a lot happens and unfolds in a year. So thank you for participating, because if you didn't, then it still wouldn't be worth much, would it? So I really appreciate the ways that you all have consistently done this. I want to also welcome all those who've joined us online for the Pastor Chat, and we appreciate their presence as well. Let's have a quick prayer and we will get started. Holy One, you've called us to a church where everyone has a voice, and so God, help us to stay true to that. Help us to understand how we listen to one another and how we deeply hear one another. And we thank you for being in our presence as we do that. We pray that you'd bless this time together, and we will give you thanks for all that you do for us. May it be so. Amen. Okay, so I want to start. I usually, save the good stuff to the last, but I'm going to start. I'm going to start with the land sale, because we've been telling you that's something we wanted to make sure we caught you up on. First of all, there's some bad news, and that is that on March 6th, the Manatee County Commissioners Board voted 5-1 against the development that was proposed to go on the land that we are selling. This came as a great surprise, really, to everyone involved. The buyers of the land had talked to 4 of the commissioners one-on-one and had their support, so it was a weird turn of events that it went another way. So that was unfortunate because that was sort of our last hurdle. Had that gone a different way, we would have been on our way to closing on this sale. That's the worst news. The little bit better news is that the attorney for the developer, the buyer, says that there is one other piece of recourse that the buyer can use so that there could be a change in how the commissioners vote. It's a little bit involved, so I'm not going to go into great detail, but there is a law that holds the commissioners to the facts, that their decisions need to follow facts. Based on the things we heard at the hearing, that we heard people say that may have been what turned them another way, we believe that they may have been banking on some things in their vote that were not entirely factual. For example, talking a lot about the flooding in this area. And people saying, well, what if it floods? And if it were to be a big flood, and if it were to be, so there was all of these if, not anybody that brought facts about that happening or that it could happen. Of course it could, but they are confined by law to only make their decisions on the facts when it comes to this sort of thing. So the attorney for the developer will be, or is already actually, that was March 6th, that is already underway, is filing against the Board of Commissioners in court to see if there is some recourse there. So I would say keep praying. We are not done yet. And it could be that the timing was not quite right and we needed to wait for a moment. So whatever the case might be, we'll continue to pray that everyone's highest good will come through in this particular thing. The other piece of better news, oh, go ahead. We need a microphone, hang on, so that the online people can hear you, Mary.
I was just wondering if there was anything we could do, you know, show up for the next meeting or whatever meeting that's going to come up against, or would that help any? Or
I don't think we know yet. You know, I mean, if the attorney says, you know, we need y'all to do this and that and the other thing, then we will, and we will let you know. But at this moment, this is a matter of the courts at the moment, so we will wait and see what happens. Another even better piece of news around the land sale is that even before this hearing, the buyer said, since this has been so delayed over and over again, offered to give us $30,000 out of escrow that we will not be obligated to pay back, regardless of what happens. The only way we would have to pay it back is if we did something to thwart the deal. If we were the perpetrators of thwarting the deal, then we would have to pay that money back, but otherwise, that will remain with us. So I think that's very good news that we have this $30,000, and it has already been delivered to us several weeks ago, okay? So that's the best of the news so far around the land sale. Any particular questions? Wait.
We are taking questions in the room. Let's wait until we get a microphone. This is just so the people online can hear us. Thank you.
I presume this is going into an interest-bearing account, this money, $30,000? The escrow account, escrow monies?
Amy, we did put this in an interest-bearing account. That's what his question was. Yes, we have. Any other questions about the land sale at this moment? Okay. All right. One of the things that the staff has decided that we have not been very good at, especially since JT came on board a little more than a year ago, is telling you all the stories of what's happening out there that you can't see or that you don't know. And that we need to do a better job of telling that story because we know that you would want to know. And we certainly want you to be aware of the ways that people are engaged with our church, even if they never come in the room, the ways that people depend on our church, even if they aren't here in the room on Sundays. And it's the story that I've talked to you all many times about, but now we've got stories to back it up. But the larger story is that this new spiritual landscape that we find ourselves in means that not everybody is going to come to the room on Sunday. And that cannot be our only measure of success. But if you don't know those stories, then you won't know about it. So I just wanted to give you just a couple, and we won't go into this in any detail, but I will be doing this over time. We all will, in different ways at different times. But one of the ways that we've noticed this is when we have special services, is what I meant to say. So this would be things like Juneteenth, Trans Day of Remembrance, the 2 vigils that we held, one on Election Day and one on Inauguration Day, things like that, our Christmas concert. What we see, first of all, about those services is that over a 3-year period, they continue to grow. And they grow more exponentially than our growth in the room. So it's just an interesting thing to know. The second thing about it is that about 60% of the people who attend those are people who are not in the room on Sunday. Do you hear that? 60%. So that it means at least 5 times a year, people are coming here, sometimes in this room, and are participating, care about the things we're doing, find solace in it, whatever all the things are, who are not necessarily here in the room on Sundays. And then one more example is that we see this in things like, we had an Emma E. Booker teacher, actually 2 of them, who are sisters, whose mother had to have brain surgery very suddenly. Guess who they reached out to? They reached out to our church. So we were the ones who were in touch with them, who prayed with them, who followed through with them as the surgery went forward. That means we were their church. One of those sisters has a daughter, Chloe, and she clung to JT. You know, she's still in high school, and she clung to JT because this was her grandmother, and she was very upset. And so these are stories you just don't always know. There will be more of those, but I just want you to be aware that there's a lot happening that you may not see. And the final one is, I've been asked 3 times, India has some notion about this, in the last 6 weeks, you know, to sit with some of our community leaders who are out of sorts with each other. Called to sit in a spiritual place, but also in a mediation place, so that we're sure we're not fussing with each other when there's so much out there we need to fight. So these are things that are in our lane that we should be doing, and the community is beginning to see that. Last weekend, India? We need a microphone, hang on.
I just want to say that the entire reason I came to this church is because I met you guys out doing social justice work. And as somebody who's, you know, my demographic of people in the transgender community is absolutely terrified. Mm-hmm. It feels like they're really trying to eradicate us. I feel that way. I try to not give my panic off as, you know, somebody with a community voice, but you are the only church in all of Southwest Florida that I see everywhere I'm at. When I'm out advocating, MCC is there. At the school board, you're the only church I see there talking. When, you know, whatever the cause is on behalf of all the things that I care about, you guys are always there. And I want to make sure that your congregation, our congregation, knows that. Mm-hmm. You know, that is, you are really funding and supporting the LGBTQ community and beyond in ways that no one else is doing. And I see a lot of churches accepting LGBTQ people and their money and their resources, and I don't see them out there doing the social justice. And to me, that is what the message of Jesus is in my heart. Is not what happens in here, it's what happens out there.
Yes.
And I want to issue a challenge, because I I had my pink triangle armband on this weekend and a cardboard sign asking people to email their concerns to Sea Alliance because we're raising them up to politicians, nationwide. And I walked all through Main Street like that, TikToking all the way. And I encountered 3 different organized religious groups there. And each one of them I walked up to. And I just said, are you the good Jesus or the bad Jesus? Right? Yeah. Are you the Jesus that wants LGBT kids to live because they're attempting suicide every 45
Right.
seconds right now? Or do you want them to die?
Right.
And
Yep.
none of them had a response, but because of what I've learned coming to MCC Church, I was able to throw some theology back at them in just one little script of theology. And I encountered Baptists, Jehovah's Witnesses, and Mennonites. And I was like, I thought the Mennonites were LGBT friendly. And he made sure to know they were not. And, well, the Bible said, and I said, well, it also says you can't shave your beard. And you look pretty well groomed there. So, let's go. Thank you. And I want to make sure people know that the money, it's the money you guys do that affords that from this church. And I'm so, so grateful.
Thank you, India. And just for the record, I did not ask her to say that. Last Sunday, we had a family in church with 4 children who came down for the kids' moment. The mother of those children and her husband were here. The mother of those children met JT at the school board. That's how they ended up here. And their response to coming to church here to me this week was, I found a church I didn't even know I was looking for. So I think we will see them back again. So it all matters. Even if you're not hearing all the stories, we're going to do a better job of keeping you informed about it. Any questions about this part of our ministry? This is your time.
I see India out all the time. I go to different events and I see India.
Absolutely, always.
So usually I see she represents this community very, very great.
And we're so fortunate that she's part of our community too here at Church of the Trinity. Okay, I want to give a quick budget update. For those of you who were at the forums last October or came to the congregational meeting last November, you know that we voted on a deficit budget. And what we agreed was that for 6 months, we would take money from our contingency funds to continue funding this ministry. A lot of what I was just talking about is what that is. And that we would wait until the end of June and sort of see where we were with the sale of the land and see how we were going to fund the back half of the year. Everybody remember this? I'm sure you do. So we are doing what we thought we would do in the first 6 months. For the last 6 months, I'm thinking even if this gets resolved with the land sale, it may not happen this year. We'll just have to see what goes on with that. But I wanted to give you an update in terms of future thinking about those last 6 months of this year. I have really good news in that way. First of all, we have the $30,000 we got from escrow. We need $34,000 to cover the deficit from July to December. $3,000 of that 30 has been allocated by the board for Reverend Collis and I to go to General Conference. It's part of our contracts, and so they decided that they wanted us to be there. So that leaves us $27,000, which leaves us about $7,000 short. One way we're going to bridge that gap is that you all may be aware that the staff has been going to MCC Key West to help them out. They have been in a real tough space and probably were on their way out of business. And so we've been going down there to try to help them out. One of the things that's interesting is they actually have a lot of money. They just have not been doing much of anything else. And so we've been trying to help them with that. And so they have written a memorandum of understanding to us at our church that they will pay $500 a month for us to take care of their finances. It's still theirs, it's in separate books, but our accountant Barb, also Reverend Collis, will do some help around that, which means that for 9 months, that will give us $3,600. That's more than half of what we need for that deficit. from July to December. So we're really close to closing that gap. We have one other very big possibility that, because we haven't actually done any contracts or yet anything, is not entirely fulfilled, but a big chunk could be coming with something we have underway with a school in our city. So we're thinking that we can feel pretty positive about our ability to close that gap without the sale of the land. And so I hope you feel good about that. All right, does anybody have any questions about it?
You mentioned a school that is possibly looking, is that a postgraduate, is that a college, or is that a grade school? What is that?
It's kindergarten through 8th grade. Good question. Other questions? We will give you a lot more details. It's an exciting opportunity. We just want to make sure it's going to happen for sure before we announce it. Anybody else have a question about this budget issue? Okay. All right, then I'm going to move on. I've had a few, I wouldn't say it's a lot, but I've had a few people come to me and ask about why there are times when we pull the screen down in front of our cross that is on the back wall. And so I want us to talk about that, and I want to kind of put that to rest right now, okay? As I've explained to the people who have come to me, who also tell me lots of other people feel the same. So I don't know if that's true or not, or I don't know what lots means, but it seems like it's something we should speak to. We do not do that because we're trying to hide the cross. The cross, as a Christian church, represents a lot of things to a lot of different people, and that's in our hearts no matter what's here or not here. But the big reason that we do that from time to time is that we have 3 people in our congregation who I know about personally because they've told me, who were sexually assaulted by someone who had a cross in their face the whole time. So when they come to church and see a cross, they are triggered by that, as you might imagine. And so I decided, because as the senior pastor, according to our governance, I am in charge of worship, I decided that we would pull that down sometimes to give them relief. It seemed like the compassionate response is to say that some of us will get what we like some of the time, other people will get a break from it for a little while sometimes. And so I hope we're the kind of church who is willing to ask for what we need, but will also extend to other people what they need. I don't believe that we want to traumatize people who've already been traumatized, do we? It's hard for me to imagine that. As far as the numbers, I want you to know that that we have counted the Sundays that we've covered the cross versus the ones we haven't. And out of 52 weeks, 38 of those, we have had the cross showing, which means that the people who are triggered by it are the ones who are actually carrying the burden, not those of us who wish it was open all the time. So I'm just going to ask us to really check our hearts about the issues of compassion and about our commitment to not traumatize people spiritually. I don't think that's helpful. And I also want to just challenge all of us. Most of us in this room are here at MCC because we were traumatized from our churches. And we found this place where we could heal and be safe. And so I think whatever we need to do to think about other people and assist them, that's what we should do. So I just wanted to make that clear, what's really going on here. Okay, I think I just have one other item. Look at us moving here. I just wanted to give you an update about a few denominational things. First of all, this is the year of General Conference for us. For those of you who don't know about that, every 3 years, MCC clergy and lay delegates and members of churches all over the world gather together, and we have a conference. Now, part of our conference this year will be held online, which will be our business meeting, and we, so that more people can participate in the voting. And this is the year that we elect a new moderator, okay? So we do that every 6 years. So this is that year that we elect a moderator. Our lay delegates, who are JT and Letitia, will be coming to you as we are aware of what the slate will be for the moderator candidates and how we will have opportunities to get to know them. So this is a very important year in the life of our denomination. We also elect a governing board, which is for the denomination like our local board of directors. So big, important things that we'll be doing this year. Reverend Collis and our delegates will be going to Scottsdale, Arizona. So we have a 3-day in-person part of our general conference this year as well. So it's always a wonderful time, and we appreciate you giving us $3,000 between us to go that far for that many days with airfare and such, okay? So we know it won't cover it all, but we appreciate the help that you've offered us around that. Any questions about General Conference? Mm-hmm.
I would expect there's been an open invitation on behalf of the church for anybody to go to General Conference?
Of course.
Okay,
Everyone is
yeah.
welcome. Everyone is welcome. And registration is online at mccchurch.org. No, mccchurch.net. Sorry, you're right. mccchurch.net. You can register there. If you only go to worship services, you don't have to pay. So there are lots of other things that are happening at General Conference. Anything else? Okay. Then I want to let you all know that starting in May, or really it'll start in June, I will be the president of our Board of Pensions for the denomination. I've been serving on the Board of Pensions for a while, but I have just been appointed to be the president, so I will take that up in June. So I just want you to know that there are lots of things we're doing. I have some vested interest in that fund. Yeah. And then just a little bit more about MCC Key West. At our September Florida Network gathering, the vice moderator at MCC Key West pulled me aside and said, we're just really struggling and we need some help. And so I went down in November and did an assessment of what's going on for the church. And then we've been helping them based on that assessment ever since. They are paying for all of our expenses, but they are not paying us other than to take care of their finances. You know, they're paying us for that, which is nice. You know, we appreciate having that for sure. But it's just, I think it's just our desire as a staff to help them as much as we can. I'm bringing that up because we don't want churches to die right now. I mean, never, but really not right now, okay? So we need to really be helping them in every way possible. And I just want you to understand that we're clear that without you paying us and giving us the leeway to go down there and help, it wouldn't be happening. So this is just as much your endeavor as it is ours. And so we appreciate you funding that, and we appreciate your prayers as we continue to help them. So they've just elected a pastoral search committee. I'll be meeting with them next week for that to get underway. So I think they have a good future in front of them. All right. Any questions about? Yes, Brian. Questions about denominational things?
You mentioned Jordy MCC, the incident. What have you found out what organization that is that's actually doing that, or are they?
I'm
trying
not
to
sure if
create
they
any type
did or
of
not.
threats
They
or
were,
anything like that?
they were associated with a church, but I am not sure who, I don't have that information. I'm sure it's known. I just don't happen to know who it was. But, you know, I think we can probably expect some of this. I also want you to know this is not new to MCC in our history. You know, every time there's an inflammatory kind of thing in our culture that points its lights on the queer community, this happens. We certainly hope it doesn't happen, but I can tell you that as part of this church for more than 40 years, MCC, we are not going to back down and we're not going to run afraid, okay? Because this is a time when our spirits need to be strong and our hearts need to be working hard for liberation, like Jesus, the good Jesus, right? Like the good Jesus, yeah. I think it's important to say, though, that we do have a preparedness team. We do have people who are looking every Sunday, who have, you know, their things that they do. So I think as much as we can, we do have everything in place. I also think, by the way, Joy MCC is like right on the street. I mean, you walk out of the door on the sidewalk in the street. I mean, it you know, it's probably not 100 feet. I mean, they are right there on the street. I think an advantage we have is being so far from the street. So I think we have some safety that's built into our property. Nancy wants to ask a question.
Well, I just wanted to follow up with that.
Yeah.
Lily asked me to look up the laws in Florida about disruption of worship services, and it is a crime. It's a misdemeanor, and it can be upgraded to a felony depending on the circumstances. So I just want you to know that the law is on our side, and that you can feel that there is that protection as well.
And
But I think our preparedness team is really, that's the front end of us protecting ourselves.
That's right. And we also, at this board meeting, will be looking at some policies that the board can put in place about immigration. So we know exactly what we can and can't do here at Church of the Trinity. And there's some things we can put into policy that will allow us to say, this is our policy, that churches have some ability to do that other organizations don't. They just expect we won't know that. So we're going to get those policies in place. That will be next Tuesday, a week from Tuesday, when the board meets.
So this reminds me of something that just happened with the people next door, behind behind the fence, the produce people.
Over here?
There, yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So Suzanne and I were meandering around the property. There was nobody around, and they started yelling at us.
Yeah. They yell all day, every day.
I just wanted to make sure everybody.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I apologize. Claire, bless her heart, has lived there for a long, long time, and I'm confident, mentally ill, and so she yells and screams all day long. She calls Doug stinky. Oh, okay. Well, look, you're in good company. Y'all are in good company. She calls me stuff a lot worse than that, so it's the only one I can speak about, actually. She calls our office phone and leaves a message almost every day. I mean, I don't know how many voicemails we have saved now. And we have called the sheriff's office any number of times, and they continue to say, she comes right up to the line, but it's not against the law to be crazy. And she doesn't come on our property. I mean, she doesn't threaten us on the phone. She gets right up close to threatening us, but doesn't. So we're kind of stuck with Claire, and there you go. Sorry she yelled at you. I don't think she's dangerous. She's just not, so far, she doesn't appear to be dangerous. She hasn't thrown anything at us or anything like that. Wait a minute, we have somebody back here. Go ahead, Robin.
If anyone feels more comfortable, maybe an outside monitor, I would be happy to do the outside monitoring. In other words, I like to keep an eye, but if people would feel more comfortable, someone managing from outside, then maybe we could do something like that. I'm sorry.
No, okay, thank you. We appreciate
Did
it.
it communicate good?
Yeah, it caught. But
Thank you for volunteering to do that. Doug has something.
So most of you know that my sister passed away recently, and I had a lifelong friend come to her service. Her name is Donna, and she is a lesbian. She's 70. And she brought her son Andrew, who is 48 years old, who has not been in a church in many, many years. And I just wanted to read the text that she sent me. She said, "What is the name of your church?" And I said, "Church of the Trinity MCC." She said, "Thank you. I wish you could have been here to listen to all Andrew had to say about how his experiences at your church affected him. I have never heard him talk about how he has changed because of those events."
Oh, wow, wow.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, is there anything anybody else wants to raise with me that you want to say? Be nice? Okay. Over here, Sheila. Was it be kind and humble?
I had my hand raised before she said be nice.
She did.
I just wanted to say that with information, it's easier to adjust. Like for example, the cross that you talked about, that hasn't bothered me, but I want to say that I've been watching a lot online, especially recently, and what gets shown online really affects how the service looks. I mean, that is, it does.
Yeah.
You know, besides listening, what somebody online sees does affect the worship coming from me. I don't know what everybody thinks, but it changes. What I really wanted to say was, I appreciate what you saying, what you did, giving us information about that. And a lot of times, I don't know what I don't know until somebody says it, you know, and I can have an opinion or a reaction to something, but once I know the behind story, it gets better.
Sure.
So for me, I'm trying to ask, like if something bothers me, I'm trying to ask, like the story.
Yeah.
You know, why do we have different colored lights up there? You know, why is the cross pink today and last week it was purple? Like people notice that kind of stuff. I notice that stuff.
And it's true, especially online, because
Yes.
it's closer up, and you know that's why we work on a lot of this stuff is for our online audience. Not entirely, but in part.
Right.
Yeah.
And
So thank you.
also
I
wanna
hear
say
you.
that I'm saying this out loud for me. It is a different experience being in the room than it is being
Yeah,
online.
of course. Yep.
It's really easy to sit home and watch online. But I was reminded when I was offered a ride today that, you know, did I want to be in church today? Like, I don't know, I could just watch online. It would be really easy. Other people might need to see you. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, there is that. Yeah.
So I'm telling on myself that there is a big difference, you know, being here in person than online. Online is awesome as an alternative. But I just wanted to say thanks for everybody that comes. You never know who you're affected. And
Yeah.
the person that Doug just talked about, I think brought really good chocolates.
I think that's right. I think that's a true story, yes. Al, right here?
I just wanted to thank you again, to go back to the MCC in Key West. I want to thank you for, first of all, for taking that on, for the staff, for doing that, you know, to help that church. I think that's a great work. And I appreciate you mentioning that now, because I didn't know any of that was going on, and I hadn't seen Collis for so many weeks, and I was starting to worry about her. I actually thought, what happened to her? You know, did she get hurt or something?
Yeah.
But anyhow, it's great work, and it's thank you for telling us about it.
Yes, and thanks to Reverend Collis and to JT for the pieces they've done. And I probably should say this too. Some folks who did seem to know, because I've said a couple of times, you know, Collis is in Key West with our church there. Is that, no, looking through their financials was not a vacation. But also some have asked us, is she getting ready to go down there? So when I engaged.
I am not moving to Key West.
Right. That's not to say they didn't ask about it, but it is to say that it was a hard no. A hard no, yeah. Okay, we got a question? Okay, Susan?
I don't have a question, I have a compliment.
Oh.
They don't come often from me.
True enough.
I just wanted to say that I worked in the office for 2 days last week, putting the devotionals together, and that office is busy. And I just want to thank you for everything you do, because it does take a village to run a church, even though it takes a village to raise a kid. Because if you ever go into Pierce Hall on a Sunday morning, you'll see how many people who volunteer to read whatever, standing in that room in a circle to get ready for the day. So I just want to say thank you for all you do.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you. Thank you.
You cut me off. I just have one comment also, is to the staff, number one, because most people at M.E. Booker consider them to be their pastors and stuff, and I'm always sending them things about praying for them, but also for the congregation. In the after class, Dewana said this is the most, and I'll probably get it wrong, friendly, welcoming church.
She said we were a woke church.
That she's ever been to. So not only the pastors, but also to the congregation.
Yeah.
So thank you for
that's
that
awesome.
commitment to me.
I said I wanted to issue a challenge, and I went on about all the churches that I encountered, and I forgot to issue the challenge. I would love to see members of this congregation
good Jesus,
and
good
other
Jesus.
MCCs nationally. Like, I'd love to see you out in the street corner, so when somebody does walk up and say, hey, I have a lot of religious trauma. I'm one of those people with the cross. It's hard because I had exorcisms done on me as a kid, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I don't think about it, but sometimes it does trigger. But I would love somebody to walk up to some people talking about Jesus on the street and say, how do you feel about transgender people, or how do you feel about gay people? And be like, not only do we accept them, we celebrate them, would be really powerful, I think. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay, yep. That's right. Okay, anyone have anything else before we pray ourselves out? Okay, so I want you to rise as you're able now, and we're going to do what we have done before, but we're going to pray ourselves out by praying the scripture, okay? I'm going to say it once, and then I'll ask you to join me. God, who began a good work in us, will be faithful to complete it. That's our faith in God's power, along with our power. So, God, who began a good work in us, will be faithful to complete it. Ready? God, who began a good work in us, will be faithful to complete it. One more time. God, who began a good work in us, will be faithful to complete it. Pray with eyes wide open, church, and give them a little bit of heaven on earth. Amen.